You didn't text back right away, not because you were busy, but because you spent 20 minutes rewriting that message, wondering if it was too much, too needy, too heavy. You cancel plans sometimes, not because you don't want to go, but because some quiet voice inside tells you the people waiting would have a better time without you there. You're in pain, but you say nothing because your problems don't feel serious enough, because someone always has it worse. You've learned to measure your worth by staying silent. And somewhere deep inside, beneath all that silence, you believe the people you love would be better off without you. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly, constantly. If any of that sounds familiar, this video was made for you. What I'm about to tell you isn't just psychology. It's something you've needed to hear for a long time. This is not about fixing you. You don't need to be fixed. This is about understanding something placed inside you before you were old enough to question it. Picture this. Your friend sends you a message. They're canceling your plans. They say they're tired. You read it and immediately say, of course, no problem at all. And you mean it. Life happens. People get tired. You put the phone down without a second thought. No resentment, no scorekeeping. Just complete, easy understanding. That part comes naturally to you, doesn't it? Now flip it. You need to cancel on them. Suddenly it is not fine. You draft the message 5 different ways. You apologize 3 times before sending. Your stomach tightens the moment you press send. When they reply saying no worries, part of you still doesn't believe it. Part of you is already tallying. How many times you've canceled, how often you've needed something from them lately. You are calculating a debt you imagine you owe. Running a mental audit of how much of other people's patience you've already used up and how little of it you feel you deserve. And here's the thing about that mental audit. It only runs in one direction. You apply it to yourself and nobody else. You would never count the same way against a friend. This is not consideration for others. This is a belief system, deeply embedded, built quietly inside a younger version of you, by experiences that shaped how you saw your own worth. Understanding where it comes from, that is where everything starts to change. Not just in how you see yourself, but in every relationship you've ever struggled to feel safe inside. Psychologists call this the burden schema, a core belief that your needs, your emotions, your very presence are somehow too much for the people around you to hold. It's not the same as low self-esteem, though they overlap. You might feel competent at work, you might know you're kind, but when it comes to needing someone, something locks inside you. A door closes, not slowly, instantly, before you even finish forming the thought, as if the act of needing is itself something you must prevent at all costs. This belief doesn't announce itself loudly. It hides in the smallest everyday behaviors. It lives in how quickly you change the subject when someone sincerely asks how you're doing. It lives in how you always offer help to others, but pull back the moment help is offered to you, as if receiving makes you less worthy of being cared about. It lives in the quiet relief you feel when plans get canceled, not because you didn't want to go, but because tonight nobody has to deal with you, and that feels like safety. It operates quietly, constantly, running in the background like invisible software consuming all your emotional resources. You don't notice it because it started before you had words for it, and it runs inside every relationship you have. Friendships, romance, family, work. Anytime you're in a situation where any reasonable person would simply ask for help. Here's where it gets important. Where does this belief actually come from? In most cases, it begins with early emotional experiences, where your needs were met with silence. Maybe your parent was overwhelmed by work, by their own unresolved pain, by responsibilities they could barely hold. And every time you needed them, you felt that weight rising in them. You learned to stop needing, not because anyone told you to, but because you loved them, and adding to their burden felt like a betrayal. So you quietly, efficiently learned to shrink. Or maybe nothing dramatic happened at all. No single traumatic event, just 1,000 small moments where you reached for connection and found distraction or absence instead. Moments where you cried and were told to stop, where your feelings were compared to someone else's bigger problems, over and over, until you started making that comparison yourself first. Before anyone could seem tired of hearing you, you had already decided to go quiet. Before they could compare, You had already done it to yourself. A preemptive silence. That thought, I shouldn't burden anyone with this, is not logic. It is a protective habit built by a child trying desperately to be easier for the people they depended on. Children are not born believing they are too much. That belief is installed through experience. And once installed, it runs silently in the background of every relationship they ever form. Remember this, because we're coming back to it. The people who feel most like a burden are almost always the people who give the most. Not sometimes, almost always. Hold on to that. Let us look at what this belief actually does to your relationships, because the real cost is something most people who carry it never fully allow themselves to see. Think about the person going through something genuinely serious, in a loss, a diagnosis, a collapse, who still texts their friend saying, "I'm fine, just a little tired. How are you?" The pain is real, enormous, but they protect everyone from it. They carry it alone because showing it feels like using something they haven't earned the right to use. Think about the partner who desperately needs reassurance but cannot ask for it directly. So instead they go quiet, they withdraw, and they wait, hoping you will notice on your own. Asking out loud would feel like demanding, and demanding to someone who believes they are already too much feels completely unforgivable. So they test instead, and testing always creates distance. There is the quietly devastating mathematics of it all. When you don't tell people what you need, they simply don't know. It is not rejection, it is a gap they cannot see. When you shrink yourself, you rob people of the chance to show up for you, then you interpret their absence as proof. Proof that you were right, that you really are too much. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You hide the need goes unmet. You take that as evidence, and the next time, you hide even more. The loop tightens with every rotation, and the loneliness it creates is one of the most specific kinds of pain there is. Not the loneliness of being alone, the loneliness of being surrounded and still completely invisible. You are in the room. People are laughing, but behind your eyes there's a glass wall between you and all of it. Present, apart, and nobody sees. This is what the burden belief costs you. Not just comfort or ease, it costs you the one thing you worked so hard to protect. Real, honest, mutual connection. I promised you something earlier. The people who feel most like a burden are almost always the ones who give the most. Let us talk about exactly what that means. Who actually worries the most about being too much? Not selfish people, not careless ones. The ones losing sleep over it are the ones most attuned to everyone around them. People with a near supernatural sensitivity to the moods and needs of others. People who would drop everything for a friend in crisis, but question their own right to reach out. The cruelest part of the burden belief is what it does with that empathy. It takes your greatest strength and quietly, efficiently, turns it into a weapon used only against yourself. It makes you believe your capacity to feel deeply makes you dangerous to the people around you, that your care somehow disqualifies you from being cared for in return. That is not the truth. That is a wound speaking in the voice of logic. And wounds can be remarkably convincing when they have had years of practice sounding like common sense. Here is the reframe. You are not too much. You are too much for people who are not enough. That is a critical, life-changing difference. Read it again if you need to. The people who could not hold you were not a verdict on your worth. They were a measure of their own capacity, and capacity is not the same thing as your value. So what do you do with this? You start small. You let one person in, slightly more than you have been. You say, "I'm not great today," instead of "I'm fine." You let someone bring you coffee when they offer. You ask for one small thing and let yourself receive it without immediately apologizing or taking it back right after. Every time you do that, you are running a quiet experiment against the belief built inside a child who had no other choice but to need less. That matters more than you know. You are not that child anymore. You have different options now. The people in your life worth keeping, they can handle you. All of you, not just the easy parts. Your needs are not a weight. They are an invitation to real closeness. The kind that only exists when two people stop performing and start being genuinely honest with each other. You are not a burden. You are someone who learned to believe that because it was the only way to survive, and that, more than anything, deserves to be seen.